This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, where we discuss all of the news in the world of sports. My name is Ben Brown. I am in the studio alone the day after Christmas. I'd like to thank you for listening, and I'd like to say happy holidays to all of you. I hope you had a great Christmas, or if you're on Hanukkah, now is the third day, so I hope you are enjoying that. If I sound a little off right now, it's because I am. I feel like I'm kind of battling a cold right now, so I feel a little congested. I have been for the past few days. So if I sound a little off, I do apologize. But I could not miss out on coming into the studio today after this weekend we just had in sports. This very well might been the best weekend of 2016. Honestly, look at what we had. We had a full slate of NFL games. Going into the week, we had 14 out of 16 games with playoff implications involved. It didn't end up going that way because the Giants did lose on Thursday to the Eagles 24-19. But still, a lot of games with playoff implications, a lot of storylines, some unfortunate news for a few quarterbacks. Yesterday, we also had the NBA on Christmas, always a great, great thing. And we had a finals rematch that we've had now for 2 years in a row. The Warriors winning on Christmas last year. The Cavaliers get some revenge on them on Christmas this year, and they do win yesterday. A great, heroic performance by Kyrie Irving. We'll break that down in our second segment. And then to end the show, we're going to preview Monday Night Football tonight. The last Monday night game of the season, the Detroit Lions going into Jerry World to take on the Cowboys, who now have the number one overall seed in the NFC wrapped up. So it will be interesting to see just how they sort of scheme tonight. We'll see if Tony Romo gets on the field at all. Perhaps Ezekiel Elliott gets rested. We'll have to wait and see. But first, we'll talk about the rest of the NFL games this past weekend. As I mentioned, the Eagles did beat the Giants 24-19 on Thursday. Eli Manning, 356 yards and one touchdown, but did have 3 interceptions, one of them a pick six by Malcolm Jenkins, which leads the Eagles to a victory. Giants at 10-5. They do wrap up a wild card spot, though. Then on Saturday, we had pretty much all the games except for 3 of them. We had 2 yesterday and 1 tonight. The Miami Dolphins in overtime get a big win over the Buffalo Bills, 34-31. Yet another 200-yard performance by running back Jay Ajayi. He runs for 206 yards and 1 touchdown. His third 200-yard game this season, having quite an impressive year. The Dolphins also do wrap up a wild card spot since last night the Broncos lose pretty bad to the Kansas City Chiefs. So Matt Moore 2-0 now as a starting quarterback since taking on for Ryan Tannehill. They do have a game next week against New England. There is still some chance to move up potentially to the number 5 seed, so have to wait and see what happens. Speaking of New England does what New England does. They absolutely thrash the Jets 41-3. Tom Brady 214 yards and 3 scores. Big day for him. And then we move on now. The Tennessee Titans have been playing really, really well last couple of weeks. Couple of big wins against Denver, last week in Kansas City. And then this week they just lay a clunker. They lose to the Jaguars 38-17. They eliminate themselves from playoff contention. And it got worse for them because Marcus Mariota, he did fracture his fibula in the loss. That was in the fourth quarter, though, so the game was already over. Really surprising by Tennessee. A good win for Jacksonville, the first win since firing Gus Bradley, so I guess you could say maybe it worked out for the best there. Blake Bortles, 325 yards and 1 touchdown. Also had a receiving touchdown. Marquise Lee threw him a touchdown pass on a trick play. So feel bad for the Titans, feel bad for Marcus Mariota, but nevertheless, a good season, but they are eliminated from playoff contention. Now the hottest team possibly in all of the NFL right now, and I think a team that nobody wants to play in the playoffs if they get there, is the Green Bay Packers. They put up another huge performance on Saturday. They beat the Minnesota Vikings 38-25. Aaron Rodgers throws for 347 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also had a rushing touchdown. Jordy Nelson, 154 yards and 2 scores. He really led the way. Minnesota, though, really good offensive day. Sam Bradford threw for 382 yards and 3 touchdowns. Adam Thielen had 12 catches for 202 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, some of it was in garbage time a little late, but Green Bay, they are very, very scary right now. They're flying under the radar. They've now winners of 5 in a row. They will be playing Detroit next week on Sunday Night Football. The winner of that game will be winning the NFC North and hosting a playoff game 2 weeks from now. So it could get pretty interesting. The city of Cleveland did receive a Christmas present this week, and that was courtesy of the Cleveland Browns. They finally get off the snide, and they defeat the San Diego Chargers 20-17. Chargers miss a field goal as time expires to try and force the game to go into overtime. Phillip Rivers, 322 yards and 2 scores. Isaiah Crowell led the way for Cleveland, 54 yards rushing and 2 scores. The Browns are not going to replicate the 2008 Detroit Lions by going 0-16. They will have 1 win. Who knows? Maybe they can defeat the Steelers next week. They do have the division wrapped up. Have to wait and see. The Redskins keep their playoff hopes alive with a 41-21 win over the Chicago Bears. Big day from Kirk Cousins and company. Kirk Cousins threw for 270 yards and 1 touchdown. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns. He's really solidifying himself as a franchise quarterback, and he's going to get a monster deal this offseason. Honestly, he deserves it. Kirk Cousins, sorry, not Chris. He's been a very, very solid quarterback the last couple of years. This year kind of on his trial, on the franchise tag. He's going to get a monster contract and deserves it. Jordan Howard, a good day for Chicago, rushing 18 carries for 119 yards. That rookie's been really good for them this year. Something to build around, but they honestly need a quarterback. Matt Barkley's not the option. Jay Cutler's definitely not the answer either, so they need to figure something out. The Atlanta Falcons have clinched the NFC South with a 33-16 victory on Saturday over the Carolina Panthers. Matt Ryan, 277 yards and 2 scores, as well as Tevin Coleman, big day on the ground, 90 yards and a touchdown. The Falcons definitely still riding high. They have a chance to get the number 2. Right now, as it stands, they're number 2 in the NFC, so they have a chance of getting that first round bye. A lot of it depends on what happens next week. The Oakland Raiders, good news and bad news. The good news is they defeat the Indianapolis Colts 33-25. Obviously, great news there. The bad news is you might say their season might be done. They lose Derek Carr to a broken leg. He's out indefinitely. He's scheduled to have surgery today. He's out indefinitely. They're going to have to turn to Matt McGloin. Raiders at 12-3. Honestly, I feel really bad for the Raiders. A great season. But without Carr, I really don't see how they have a chance in the playoffs. They'll be playing Denver next week. If they do win that game, they will have second seed wrapped up and be getting a first-round bye, which would be great. You can get Matt McGloin, who's been a career backup. You can get him some more time to prepare, get ready with his receivers, with his offensive line, with his running backs, with his coaches. So I think a win next week over Denver will be huge. The Broncos have nothing to play for, being eliminated from playoff contention with their loss last night. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what they do. But I think a win next week with Matt McGloin will be huge because they can get him ready. They still have some solid pieces, like I mentioned. Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree, one of the league's best offensive lines. They ran for over 100 yards against the Colts. DeAndre Washington had 99 yards and 2 scores. You still have Latavius Murray as well. So you have some pieces in Oakland to work around. Good offensive line will keep McGloin up. He's got to just make some good, solid throws. Defense needs to step up. The defense has been up and down all year. Honestly, I feel really bad for the Raiders. I think they're done. I don't think they really have much of a shot with Matt McGloin. But they do get the win against the Colts. A win on Sunday against Denver will be huge. Have to wait and see what happens. The New Orleans Saints with a 31-24 victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers still even with the loss, an outside shot of getting into the playoffs. It's a really, really outside shot, though. They needed a lot of help. This was a big, big loss for them. Drew Brees, 299 yards and 1 score. Mark Ingram, big day on the ground as well, 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kind of the craziest game of the day. The Arizona Cardinals against the Seattle Seahawks. Arizona wins 34-21. You're thinking to yourself, late field goal, which is exactly what happened. They do get the late field goal, time expires. Chandler Catanzaro kicks it first, Arizona. But this game was absolutely ridiculous. 41 combined points in the fourth quarter. Seattle storms back. It's kind of like a tale of two quarters within the quarter. Arizona does all their scoring early. Seattle comes back late. They tie the game with a minute left, 31-31. And then Steven Hauschka misses the extra point. Arizona drives the length of the field, kicks the field goal as time expires to win the game 34-31. The best thing the NFL could have ever done was push the extra point back. This is a prime example of that. It's not a guaranteed thing anymore. It just creates more madness and unexpected situations. This is exactly what happened in this game. I absolutely love the decision by the NFL. It's working wonders in my eyes. This is a prime example. Big day from Russell Wilson, though, 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. David Johnson just continues to impress. 95 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns. He's just fantastic. I really think the only running back better than him is Le'Veon Bell in the NFL. The San Francisco 49ers were riding a 13-game losing streak since they beat the LA Rams in Week 1. Well, the Niners are now 2-0 against the Rams, a 22-21 victory over the Rams. Niners score in the final seconds of the game. They go for 2 for the win, and they get it, 22-21. Colin Kaepernick, 266 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Niners are 2-0 against the Rams and 0-13 against the rest of the league. So I guess you have to say that the Niners are at least better than the Rams. Rams now 4-11. They were 3-1 at one point. Remember that? I mean, they're just absolutely terrible. The Houston Texans have clinched yet another division title, the AFC South, with a 12-10, really kind of a boring clunker game on Christmas Eve night. The Bengals miss a field goal as time expires to try and win the game 13-10, but they do lose it 12-10. Tom Savage is going to be leading Houston into the promised land, into the playoffs. Didn't really do too much, but didn't do terrible. No turnovers. That's the important thing. The one thing Brock Osweiler has been unable to do this year is not turn the ball over. Tom Savage, 18 of 29, 176 yards. Alfred Blue, 73 yards and a touchdown. Lamar Miller was injured and forced to miss the game. Andy Dalton threw for 268 yards and 1 touchdown, as well as an interception. So, their season's over. They knew that. A.J. Green really wanted to play this game, but the Bengals decided to shut him down for the year, which honestly I would do as well. You have nothing to play for. You might as well get your stud all the way healthy for next season. Not really happy, which I can understand. He wants to be out there and compete, but it's a good thing they shut him down. There's no real need to play him. And then that turns us over to yesterday's game, the 2 Christmas games. It was a battle for the AFC North. The Steelers top the Ravens. Antonio Brown scores a touchdown with just 9 seconds left, 31-27. The Steelers clinch the AFC North with the victory. Ben Roethlisberger, 279 yards and 3 touchdowns. Le'Veon Bell, another big day, 122 yards rushing. He also had a touchdown and a receiving touchdown. Antonio Brown, 96 yards and a touchdown with 9 seconds left. The Ravens scored just with about a minute left. The Steelers go the length of the field and win. Great performance. I love the Steelers going into this week. They were hot. They're healthy. They're at home. No real surprise they won in my eyes. So, good win for the Steelers. They do clinch the division. The Chiefs, huge victory, as I said, last night, 33-10 over the Broncos. Travis Kelce, 160 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. A huge day for the tight end. He's one of the best tight ends in the league. We all know that. Tyreek Hill continues to do Tyreek Hill things. A 70-yard touchdown run in the first quarter. Even Dontari Poe, the defensive lineman, he threw a touchdown pass, a little trick play there at the end of the game. Kind of like Tim Tebow-esque, like a little jump pass. It was actually kind of interesting, kind of nice. The Broncos, the defending Super Bowl champs, are eliminated from playoff contention with the loss. their offense just can't really do much. Trevor Siemian, 183 yards and 1 interception. He was 17 of 43. So just a terrible night passing. They can't run the ball. Only 63 yards total on 14 carries. There's just not much to look for. Denver's offense has really let them down all year, especially lately. The defense can only do so much, and that's the problem, is that they can't get anything done, and they're just keeping that defense on the field all game, and that's ultimately their downfall. So now you look at the updated playoff standings. The AFC is set. We do know our 6 playoff teams, but there's nothing really locked into place. So New England's number 1 overall seed. They will, with a victory or Oakland loss, they will stay number 1. Oakland is 2. Number 3 right now is the Steelers. Number 4 is the Texans. And then the 2 wildcard teams, as of right now, are the Chiefs and the Dolphins. All 6 of those teams are locked into the playoffs. Like I said, we just don't really know standings yet. And then you look at the NFC, you have the Dallas Cowboys already clinching the number 1 overall seed. You have Atlanta right now, number 2. Seattle's number 3. Well, actually, Seattle's number 4. Right now, number 3 is Detroit because they do still have an edge. They have not played yet tonight. We'll have to see what happens. But Detroit, and then you look at Seattle, they've already clinched the division. Green Bay is in the playoffs right now, as well as the Giants. So we'll have to wait and see. Nothing is specifically locked in. The only teams that are locked in right now in the NFC are the Giants, the Dallas Cowboys, the Atlanta Falcons, and the Seattle Seahawks. So we still have the NFC North, which will be decided next Sunday between the Lions and the Packers, and 1 wildcard team. Washington's still in the mix, Tampa Bay still in the mix, and then the loser of the NFC North title game next week is still in the mix. So have to wait and see what happens. That game got pushed to Sunday night, which is a great thing. The standalone Sunday night game for the division title. Obviously a good decision in my eyes, so have to wait and see. Anyways, we'll take our first break at the Golden State Media Concept Sports Podcast. After the break, we're going to be talking about the NBA on Christmas. In particular, the Warriors and Cavs game went down to the wire. A great game and a great finish for Cleveland. Get the victory. We'll talk about that. Break it down. I have some interesting thoughts about the game. Talk about that right after the break.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
It is Boxing Day in England. I want to say happy Boxing Day. A ton of Premier League games. I'm currently watching 2 different ones. I'm a huge soccer guy, so no real surprise there, especially the Premier League. I love it. I'll be doing the soccer show after this, so if you're interested in that, make sure you tune over to that. We're talking a lot about the Premier League as well as the year in review. A lot of great soccer stuff planned for the show. Anyways, guys, I want to talk about the NBA. Yesterday on Christmas, in my eyes, kind of like you can look at Christmas as the start of the NBA season. I've never been a real big fan of how basketball does it. I think a couple of things. You saw what happened in the NFL yesterday. 14 of 16 games with playoff implications. In basketball, by the time the All-Star break rolls around, half the teams are already out of it. Same thing in baseball. It's a message to me that you need to shorten your schedules. Just shorten them up. By the halfway point, half the teams are already out of it. In the NFL, that's not necessarily the case. You look at the Dolphins; they were 1-4. Now they're 10-5 in the playoffs. So anything can really happen. But I mean, it won't happen. The owners aren't going to take a pay cut. There's a lot of money involved, TV revenue. But anyways, I look at Christmas as kind of the start of the basketball season in my eyes. Yesterday, a huge game, the first meeting since the NBA Finals. The Cleveland Cavaliers hosting the Golden State Warriors. They get a 109-108 victory. Kyrie Irving hitting a jumper over Klay Thompson. A great turnaround to win the game with 3.4 seconds left. Irving finished with 25 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds, and 7 steals. Kyrie putting up another masterful performance. Cleveland was down 14 points in the fourth quarter. So the Warriors blow a 3-1 lead last year and blow a 14-point fourth quarter lead this year. Cavaliers don't even have J.R. Smith either. Couple of takeaways from my standpoint. Steph Curry struggles yet again on Christmas. He came into the game averaging 11 points a game on Christmas. He scores 15 points, shot 4 of 11, did not play well at all. Kevin Durant kind of leads them, 36 points, 12 of 12 from the free throw line, 15 rebounds. The guy was a stud. He put up a masterful performance yesterday. Klay Thompson chipped in with 24, Draymond Green 16, So not a bad night. LeBron leads the way for Cleveland. No real surprise there. 31 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists. Kevin Love had 20 points and 6 boards. But for me, I look at Steph Curry in particular and Klay Thompson. We saw what happened last year in the finals. Kyrie really outplayed Steph Curry last year in the finals. This game, same thing. I think really they just match up so good against each other. Kyrie is such a good matchup against Steph Curry. He's better on the ball, isolation. He's better defensively. The only thing that Steph has over Kyrie is the jump shot, which Kyrie Irving has a pretty good jumper, but it's not anything like Steph Curry. So, you know what I mean? I think just in particular, head-to-head, Kyrie matches up with Steph so well. He's got the speed advantage, a couple of inches of height. He's just a really good matchup for him. And really, I think Steph kind of saw that in the finals last year. And in this game, I want to say he was a little timid, a little scared. You know what I mean? It's kind of like he realizes Kyrie is that one guy who can match up with him head-to-head exceptionally well. And he knows he's going to run into him in the finals. Like, if this was anything like the finals are going to be, then boy, we are in for a treat come June. This game went down to the wire, as I said. I think really, you're looking at Kyrie, you're looking at LeBron. LeBron's feeding the ego of Kyrie. You're better than Steph Curry. You can take him on. We can win because you can beat Steph Curry. Steph is kind of scared. Last year in the finals, Steph averaged more turnovers than assists. Yesterday, he had 3 turnovers, 3 assists. Did not shoot well, never does on Christmas. But again, struggling against the Cavaliers. Even though Kevin Durant was there, they kind of just, same thing. At the end of the game, man-to-man, one-on-one gameplay. You look at the Cavaliers, they move the ball all over the pitch. So, I mean, I don't really know, man. I think when I look at this, I realize it's just one game. But I think when you look towards the finals, I think Cleveland has the edge again because Kyrie simply just matches up well with Steph Curry. I really think that might be the difference in this one. It is just one game, as I said. But they didn't have J.R. Smith yesterday. And they still come out on top. The Warriors blow a 14-point fourth quarter lead. Credit to the Cavs for coming back. You got to give them a lot of credit for that. A great victory, 109-108. Look at some of the other games on the schedule. The Celtics get a 119-114 victory over the Knicks. Big day for Isaiah Thomas, 27 points. He led the way for Boston, as well as Al Horford had 15 points and 7 rebounds. Celtics do pretty good against the Knicks in the Garden. Carmelo Anthony, 29 points to go along with 7 rebounds for the Knicks. Derrick Rose, 25 points as well. Porzingis had 22 points and 12 rebounds. He's really developing well. Boston Celtics now 18-13. The Knicks 16-14. The San Antonio Spurs with a 19-point victory over the Bulls, 119-100. Huge night for LaMarcus Aldridge. He led the way for the Spurs. 33 points to go along with 9 rebounds. Kawhi Leonard, 25 points and 10 rebounds. Pau Gasol also had 12 points and 7 rebounds. Look at the Bulls, kind of led by Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade's got the most wins in history of any player on Christmas, but not getting a victory in this game. They lose, obviously. Dwayne Wade, 24 points, 6 assists for the Bulls, his first game as a Bull on Christmas. Russell Westbrook with a huge double-double. No triple-double for Russ, but they get a 112-100 victory over the Minnesota Timberwolves. Russell Westbrook, 31 points, 15 assists. It's a career high. To go along with 7 rebounds. Steven Adams, 22 points, 6 rebounds. The Grizzlies, or not the Grizzlies, but the Timberwolves, kind of disappointing. They're 9-21. Everyone thought they'd be that breakout team to get into the playoffs, myself included. Carl Anthony Towns, 26 points to go along with 8 rebounds. Andrew Wiggins, 23 points. They're just not really sort of progressing under Tom Thibodeau like we all would have thought and hoped. The Battle of L.A. was our nightcap on Christmas. The Lakers against the Clippers. The Lakers with a huge victory, 111-102. They were just led. Nick Young, a huge game, a huge fourth quarter. He had 19 points. He was their leading scorer to go along with Timofey Mozgov as well as 19 points. Luol Deng, 13 points and 12 rebounds. Julius Randle, a good game, 13 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists for the young man from Kentucky. Lakers with a big victory. Clippers, they're just kind of struggling, battling some injuries. Blake Griffin's going to be out for a while. J.J. Redick led them with 22 points. Jamal Crawford off the bench, probably the best six-man really ever in my eyes. 22 points as well. They're just not really, they don't really have it right now. They were doing so great, but then injuries came back to haunt them. That's the one thing that always gets to you. Chris Paul did not play last night, out with a hamstring. Like I mentioned, Blake Griffin's still out. So, I don't know. The Clippers kind of struggling. I really think it's just down to the Spurs and the Warriors in the West. And in the East, I really don't see anyone challenging Cleveland. J.R. Smith is still out, and they're still doing great things and beating the Warriors down 14. That was a huge, huge victory yesterday. They really showed me a lot yesterday, did the Cavs, that they're still a strong, strong team, even though KD is with the Warriors now. So, and I really, like I said, I think it's just that Kyrie, he has that edge over Steph, and it's like everyone knows it, but no one wants to admit it. And even Steph himself wants to not admit it, but he knows it. Like Kyrie just matched up with him so well that he can really be that guy to slow him down, make him use a lot of energy on defense, and just get his edge, get by him. And I think that's really what the difference could be in the finals. It's going to be a great, great, obviously I'm building this up too early. One or two of these injuries happen, and then we literally have nothing to talk about in June. But if yesterday was any implication, June's going to be fantastic. So with that, we'll take our last break at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. After the break, be talking about Monday Night Football, going to preview the game tonight between the Cowboys and the Lions. Just how much playing time, if any, is Tony Romo going to get for Dallas tonight? Will be interesting to find out. Talk about that right after the break at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
The Detroit Lions going into Jerry World to take on the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas is a 6-point favorite. If you're going to be a betting man, I would suggest not betting the game tonight. Kind of hard to predict what is going to happen. You're not sure exactly how much Jason Garrett is going to play his starters. They have nothing to play for. They already have the number 1 seed wrapped up in the NFC. So I would expect at most the starters like Dak, Zeke Elliott play about a half. I really don't expect them to play much more than that. I wouldn't say they should give them the entire night off. Next week as well, you're going to have a bye week, so you'll be having like 3-4 weeks off before you play a game. That's definitely not a good suggestion in my eyes. We've seen teams having rust. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but we'll have to wait and see what Jason Garrett does. I'd say at most, I think the starters will play a half. I think that's a good, solid thing. And then you could see Tony Romo. The first appearance of Tony Romo is definitely coming. It's either this week or next week. And then you could have a couple of interesting storylines with Romo. Number 1. The guy can't stay healthy. What if he gets injured yet again? Then any chance Dallas has of trying to make a trade with a team for next year to get something pretty good for Romo is literally out the window. Because if the guy just gets injured again, proves that he cannot stay healthy. There's no way that any team is going to give up anything really, really high, like a really high first round, maybe second round draft pick to get Romo. If he can't even stay healthy in limited action, there's no way any team's going to give up anything for him. That's number one. And then number two, it's the same thing Jerry Jones has been saying for the last few weeks now. What happens if Tony Romo lights it up? What happens if they're kind of struggling against Detroit? Second half comes around, they blow them out because Romo throws for 3 touchdowns. What if Romo plays good? Then you have Jerry Jones. Oh, Romo's our guy. Oh, yeah, we saw it. He said all along, I'll know it when I see it in regards to pulling the plug at the starting quarterback position. He just simply cannot commit to Dak Prescott, and I don't understand it, and it's not fair to Dak Prescott. He's definitely earned it. So those are the two storylines you kind of have to look at with Dallas these last couple of weeks, especially next week, though. I think he'll probably have more playing time next week than he will tonight, but I would expect Romo to see the field tonight. I really do. I don't think Dak's going to play the whole entire game, nor is Zeke Elliott. I think they probably play a half and then call it a day. Give them some playing time, make sure they don't get injured, get them some reps, get them ready for the playoffs. They have home field all the way. They're going to have the edge in every game, so you want to get them ready. So as far as who's going to win, I'll give the edge to Detroit. I think they are going to be playing all the way through. They want to try and put out a good performance. They want to try and keep their sort of positive momentum going. They have a huge game where they're hosting Green Bay next week for the division. If they win this game and then lose next week, they'll still be in a good position to get a playoff spot. So they're going to be trying to get as many wins as possible. So for that reason, I'll give the edge to Detroit. Matthew Stafford's been fantastic all year long, 3,700 yards and 22 touchdowns. So I'll give the edge to Detroit. We'll have to wait and see. It's going to be interesting to see about Tony Romo, though. That's the one thing I'm looking forward to, is how he plays and when he plays and how long he plays. So that'll be interesting. Anyways, guys, that's going to conclude our show for today. I'd like to thank you for listening. My name is Ben Brown. Once again, happy holidays. I hope you had a great holiday weekend. I know some of you are probably still enjoying it off today. But anyways, thank you for listening. Hope you have a great day, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.